Hey everyone. Before we dive into the fascinating world of fish, I want to know, where in the world are you watching from right now? Drop your location in the comments. Whether you're by the ocean, in a city, or somewhere in between, let's explore one of nature's curious questions together. Do fish sleep? When we think about sleep, most of us immediately picture closing our eyes, drifting off into a deep unconscious state and dreaming away. But what exactly does it mean to sleep? Is it just about shutting down for a while, or is there more to it? Sleep is actually a very complex biological process that serves multiple important functions for animals, including restoring energy, supporting brain function, and maintaining overall health. In humans and many mammals, sleep involves a predictable pattern of brain activity, a loss of consciousness, and a decreased response to the environment. But can this definition apply to creatures that live underwater and look very different from us? At its core, sleep is often described as a reversible state of reduced responsiveness to the environment accompanied by a specific set of physiological changes. For example, when we sleep, our body temperature drops slightly, our heart rate slows, and our brain waves follow distinct patterns that researchers can measure with tools like EEG, electroencephalogram. These criteria help scientists identify sleep in animals. But when it comes to fish, things get trickier. Fish don't have eyelids like humans do, so they don't close their eyes to sleep. Their brain structures are also very different, which raises questions about whether they experience sleep in the same way. So, what does sleep really do for an animal? One major purpose is energy conservation. Sleep allows the body to rest and repair itself after the stresses of the day. Another crucial function is memory consolidation. Essentially, helping the brain sort through the events of the day and store important information while discarding what's unnecessary. Sleep also plays a role in immune system function, hormone regulation, and maintaining the balance of chemicals in the brain. Scientists often distinguish sleep from simply resting or being inactive. For example, a dog that's quietly lying down but still alert to its surroundings isn't truly asleep. It's just resting. True sleep involves a change in brain activity and a reduced ability to respond to external stimuli. This is why a sleeping human usually doesn't react to every noise around them, but a resting person might. So, when we apply these criteria to fish, the question becomes, do they show signs of this kind of brain activity and reduced responsiveness? Some animals, like dolphins and certain birds, are known to sleep with one half of their brain at a time, a fascinating adaptation called unihemispheric sleep. This allows them to keep moving or watch for predators while still getting rest. Could fish have something similar? Or do they have completely different ways of managing rest? Understanding what sleep really means in the context of fish requires us to step back and reconsider our human assumptions. Because fish evolved in an environment vastly different from ours, underwater, with constant movement and often high levels of threat, they may have developed unique sleep behaviors that serve the same essential functions, but look very different from our own experience of sleep. So, before we answer the big question of whether fish sleep, it's important to first understand that sleep isn't just about closing your eyes or lying still. It's a complex biological process that helps animals survive and thrive. The challenge is figuring out how this process translates to creatures that don't fit our usual expectations. With that in mind, let's dive deeper into what scientists have discovered about fish and their mysterious rest patterns. To truly understand if fish sleep, we first need to explore how scientists define sleep across different species. Sleep might seem like a simple concept, just closing your eyes and resting, but from a scientific perspective, it's actually quite complex and involves specific criteria. Researchers have spent decades trying to pin down what exactly counts as sleep in animals, especially in species that are very different from humans. One of the main ways scientists study sleep is by looking at brain activity. In mammals and birds, sleep is characterized by distinct patterns in the brain's electrical signals, which can be recorded using tools like electroencephalograms or EEGs. These patterns reveal two major types of sleep: rapid eye movement, REM sleep, where dreaming often occurs, and non-REM sleep, which is a deeper, restorative state. These sleep stages have been well documented in humans and many other land animals. But what about fish? Fish brains are structurally different from mammals. While mammals have a well-developed cerebral cortex, important for complex thought and consciousness, fish have a simpler brain structure, often with different arrangements of neurons and fewer layers. This anatomical difference means that scientists can't simply apply the same brainwave criteria used for humans or mammals to determine sleep in fish. Without comparable EEG patterns, how do researchers identify sleep in these aquatic creatures? Because direct brainwave measurements can be difficult or inconclusive in fish, scientists often rely on behavioral criteria to define sleep in fish and other animals lacking typical brain structures. These behavioral signs include periods of inactivity, a reduced responsiveness to external stimuli, and adopting specific resting postures. For instance, if a fish stops swimming, stays still in a safe spot, and doesn't immediately react to disturbances, it may be considered to be sleeping or resting. However, this behavioral approach has its challenges, because inactivity might also mean a fish is conserving energy or simply hiding from predators, not necessarily sleeping. Another important factor that scientists look at is the reversibility of the state. Sleep must be a temporary state that can be easily reversed, meaning the animal can quickly wake up if disturbed. This helps differentiate sleep from states like hibernation or coma, which involve deeper and longer-term unconsciousness. In fish, researchers observe whether they can quickly resume activity when threatened or when environmental conditions change, which suggests that their resting states are more like sleep than other states of inactivity. Circadian rhythms, or internal biological clocks that cycle roughly every 24 hours, also play a crucial role in understanding sleep. Most animals have these rhythms, which help regulate sleep-wake cycles. By studying how fish behave over a day-night cycle, scientists have noticed that many fish species show periods of lowered activity during certain times, often at night. These regular, rhythmic rest periods are another clue that fish may be experiencing sleep or something very similar to it. Interestingly, in some species of fish, these rest periods correspond with changes in physiological processes, such as reduced heart rate and slower metabolism, similar to what happens during sleep in mammals. These physiological signs support the idea that fish experience a state that serves the restorative functions of sleep. Scientists have also conducted experiments to test whether depriving fish of these rest periods causes negative effects, similar to sleep deprivation in humans. In some studies, fish that were kept active or prevented from resting showed signs of stress, impaired learning, and decreased immune function. further indicating that rest periods in fish are essential for their well-being and may be analogous to sleep. It's important to recognize that sleep is a spectrum rather than a simple on or off state. Some animals might experience deep, complex sleep stages, while others have lighter or different forms of rest that fulfill the same biological needs. This is especially true for animals like fish that live in environments where staying alert to predators or changes in water conditions can mean the difference between life and death. Because fish do not have eyelids and often live in environments with low light, closing eyes isn't a reliable indicator of sleep for them. Instead, the combination of behavioral signs, physiological changes, and circadian rhythms help scientists approximate what sleep might look like in fish. Although we don't have all the answers yet, these criteria provide a framework for studying fish rest and understanding how sleep might manifest in aquatic life. So, when scientists say they're looking for sleep in fish, they're actually looking for a mix of reduced activity, decreased responsiveness, physiological slowdowns, and cyclical behavior patterns that together suggest a sleep-like state. It's a careful balance of interpreting different clues, because fish don't show sleep in ways that are exactly like land mammals or humans. As science advances and new technologies emerge, researchers are getting better at peering into the underwater world of fish brains and behavior, slowly uncovering the mysteries of how these fascinating creatures rest. But for now, the scientific definition of sleep in fish remains based largely on these behavioral and physiological indicators, rather than the classic brainwave signatures we rely on for mammals and birds. To begin understanding whether fish sleep, it's essential to explore what kind of brain fish have and how it compares to the brains of humans and other animals known for sleeping. The brain is the central organ that regulates sleep in most animals, so understanding fish brain anatomy is a crucial piece of the puzzle. Fish have brains, but they are quite different in structure and complexity compared to mammals, birds, and reptiles. The evolutionary history of fish dates back hundreds of millions of years, and their brains reflect adaptations to life underwater. Unlike mammals, which have a highly developed cerebral cortex responsible for complex thinking, memory, and consciousness, fish have a much simpler brain organization. Their brains are generally smaller and less layered, with fewer specialized regions. At the core, the fish brain is divided into three major parts: the forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. The forebrain in fish is simpler than in mammals, but still important for processing sensory information and basic behaviors. The midbrain handles visual processing and motor control, while the hindbrain coordinates movement and basic bodily functions like breathing and heart rate. One key difference is the relative size of the forebrain. In mammals and birds, the forebrain, especially the cerebral cortex, is highly developed and is associated with advanced cognitive functions and sleep regulation. In fish, the forebrain is less developed and is sometimes called the pallium. This region controls instinctive behaviors and basic processing, but lacks the complex structures seen in mammals. This raises the question of how sleep is regulated in fish without such a complex brain. Despite this, fish do have regions in their brain that are thought to play roles similar to those involved in sleep regulation in mammals. For instance, the hypothalamus, a part of the forebrain found across many vertebrates, including fish, is involved in controlling circadian rhythms, the internal biological clock that governs cycles of sleep and wakefulness. The hypothalamus helps regulate hormones and behaviors tied to rest, suggesting that fish have some biological mechanisms that could support sleep-like states. Fish also have a brainstem and other subcortical structures that control basic bodily functions and arousal states. These areas are critical for transitioning between states of activity and rest. In mammals, similar regions coordinate sleep cycles, including REM and non-REM phases. While fish may not exhibit the same clear sleep stages due to their simpler brain structures, these brain areas may still enable periods of lowered activity and reduced responsiveness, which resemble sleep. Another factor to consider is the presence of neurotransmitters, chemical messengers in the brain that regulate sleep and wakefulness. Many of these chemicals, such as serotonin, dopamine, and melatonin, are found in fish brains as well. Melatonin, in particular, plays a major role in regulating circadian rhythms and sleep in animals, including fish. Fish produce melatonin in response to changes in light, which helps them adjust their activity levels during day and night cycles. This biochemical similarity hints that fish brains are equipped to regulate rest periods, even if the overall structure is simpler. While fish brains lack the highly organized cortex of mammals, their neural architecture is still capable of generating states of reduced awareness. For example, some studies have shown changes in brainwave activity in fish during periods of rest or inactivity, although these are not as distinct or as easily measured as in mammals. The technology to study fish brain activity is still developing, so our understanding of how fish brains behave during rest is evolving. The differences in brain complexity between fish and mammals lead some scientists to propose that fish might not experience sleep in the same way we do, but instead enter rest states that serve similar functions. These rest states could be simpler and less structured, but still vital for processes like energy conservation, cellular repair, and memory consolidation. It's also important to recognize that fish are incredibly diverse, with tens of thousands of species ranging from tiny tropical fish to large sharks. Their brains vary significantly across species, so some fish may have more complex brain structures that support more elaborate rest or sleep states. For instance, some larger predatory fish have more developed brains compared to smaller species, which might influence how they rest or sleep. Finally, the aquatic environment itself shapes fish brain function and behavior. Living underwater means fish must constantly manage oxygen intake through gills, stay alert to predators, and navigate three-dimensional space. These survival demands likely influenced how their brains evolved to balance rest and vigilance. For example, some fish species must keep swimming constantly to breathe, which means their rest states cannot involve complete inactivity. This further differentiates fish rest and sleep from terrestrial animals. In summary, while fish brains are less complex than those of mammals and lack a well-developed cerebral cortex, they possess important structures and biochemical systems that regulate activity and rest. These brain components suggest that fish have the capacity to enter states similar to sleep, though the exact nature of those states may be quite different. Understanding fish brain anatomy helps us appreciate that sleep is not a one-size-fits-all phenomenon, and that fish likely experience a unique form of rest adapted to their environment and physiology. When we want to understand whether fish sleep, it helps to look at how animals in general show signs of sleep. Sleep is a universal phenomenon seen across many animal species, but the way it shows up can vary dramatically depending on the animal's physiology, environment, and evolutionary history. By examining the common signs of sleep in different creatures, we can better frame what to look for in fish. One of the most obvious signs of sleep in many animals is a period of inactivity. When a dog curls up on the couch and falls asleep, it stops moving and adopts a restful posture. This immobility is often a primary indicator that an animal is sleeping, as it allows the body to conserve energy and engage in physiological repair processes. However, inactivity alone isn't enough to confirm sleep, because animals may be resting or conserving energy without truly sleeping. So, scientists look for additional signs. Reduced responsiveness to stimuli is another important indicator. When asleep, animals usually have a decreased reaction to external events, such as noises, touch, or movement around them. For example, a sleeping cat may not immediately wake when a door slams, but will still respond to louder or more persistent stimuli. This diminished responsiveness helps protect the brain from sensory overload during sleep and is a hallmark of true sleep states. Many animals also adopt specific postures or behaviors when they sleep. Birds often tuck their heads under their wings, and horses can sleep standing up thanks to a unique locking mechanism in their legs. Similarly, fish often find a sheltered or secure spot and remain still in a particular posture that signals rest. Observing these behavioral changes is key to identifying sleep in animals that cannot verbally communicate their state. Changes in breathing patterns can also be a sign of sleep. In humans and many animals, breathing becomes slower and more regular during sleep, reflecting a relaxed physiological state. While fish don't breathe with lungs, but instead use gills, some species do show slower or more rhythmic gill movements during periods of rest. This change can indicate a lowered metabolic rate and reduced activity consistent with sleep. Brain activity patterns are the gold standard for identifying sleep in many animals. But as mentioned earlier, these are harder to study in fish due to their different brain structures. In animals where brain waves can be measured, sleep is characterized by distinct patterns such as slow wave activity or the rapid eye movement associated with dreaming. These brain patterns correspond with different sleep phases, each serving unique restorative functions. In addition to behavioral and physiological signs, sleep is often associated with a circadian rhythm, a regular daily cycle of activity and rest controlled by internal biological clocks. Most animals have these rhythms, and their sleep is generally aligned with day-night cycles. For nocturnal animals, sleep occurs during the day, while for diurnal animals, it occurs at night. Observing an animal's daily patterns of rest and activity can therefore provide clues about when it sleeps. Unihemispheric sleep is a fascinating adaptation seen in some animals, like dolphins and certain birds, where one half of the brain sleeps while the other half remains awake. This allows the animal to continue swimming or stay alert for predators while still getting some rest. Though this type of sleep is not documented in fish yet, it highlights the incredible diversity in how animals manage sleep. In animals that undergo hibernation or torpor, sleep can become more complicated to define. These states involve prolonged periods of reduced metabolic activity and responsiveness, but they are distinct from the daily sleep cycle. Understanding these differences helps clarify what constitutes sleep versus other types of rest or inactivity. For fish, these general signs of sleep present unique challenges. Since fish don't have eyelids and often need to keep swimming or remain alert for predators, their signs of sleep may be more subtle. Some fish enter a state of quiescence, marked by greatly reduced movement and responsiveness, which scientists interpret as sleep-like behavior. However, because fish live in an environment where water conditions can change rapidly and predators are a constant threat, their sleep must balance rest with the ability to quickly respond to danger. Moreover, some fish species demonstrate specialized behaviors during rest. For example, certain species wedge themselves into crevices or find sandy bottoms to minimize movement and vulnerability. Others reduce fin activity and hover in place. These postures and behaviors act as physical signs that the fish is in a resting or sleeping state, even if the fish's brain activity during these times is not yet fully understood. In sum, the signs of sleep in animals typically include inactivity, reduced responsiveness, specific postures, changes in breathing or physiological states, brainwave patterns, and alignment with circadian rhythms. While not all these signs are easily measurable in fish, many of these criteria can still be observed behaviorally and physiologically. By comparing these indicators across the animal kingdom, researchers can make informed inferences about whether fish sleep and how their sleep might differ from that of mammals and birds. Understanding these signs helps set the stage for exploring the fascinating variations in sleep behaviors among different fish species and how these behaviors support their survival in diverse aquatic environments. One of the most curious aspects of fish sleep is how they manage to rest without eyelids. For most land animals, closing their eyes is one of the most obvious signs of sleep. It serves to protect the eyes from light, dust, and debris, and it also signals to the brain and body that it's time to wind down. But fish are different. The vast majority of fish species don't have eyelids at all, so they can't close their eyes the way mammals, birds, or reptiles do. This raises the question, how do fish rest or sleep when their eyes remain open all the time? First, it helps to understand why fish don't have eyelids. Living underwater means their eyes are constantly surrounded by water, which keeps them moist and protected naturally. Because there is no risk of drying out or debris in the air, the evolutionary pressure to develop eyelids was much lower. Instead, fish eyes have adapted to aquatic life with clear, protective corneas and specialized lenses designed to focus light underwater. This anatomy serves them well, but comes with the trade-off that their eyes remain open even when they are resting. Since fish cannot rely on closing their eyes as a sleep signal, they have evolved different ways to show rest and sleep-like states. Instead of shutting down their vision, they likely rely on behavioral and physiological changes to indicate rest. Many fish species reduce their activity levels dramatically during periods of rest, staying motionless or drifting slowly in the water. These periods of stillness and reduced responsiveness are thought to be the closest equivalent to sleep in fish. Observing fish in their natural environment or in aquariums often reveals that during rest, fish adopt specific postures or positions. Some fish wedge themselves into crevices, hide among rocks or coral, or rest on the substrate. By staying in protected or concealed areas, they reduce the risk of predation while they are less alert. Others hover quietly in mid-water, remaining as motionless as possible. This behavioral stillness compensates for the inability to close their eyes, allowing them to conserve energy and enter a restful state without losing visual awareness entirely. Interestingly, even though fish keep their eyes open, their visual system may operate differently during rest. Some research suggests that fish may reduce the processing of visual information during rest periods. Their brains might filter out unnecessary sensory input, allowing them to rest mentally despite the constant input from open eyes. This is somewhat similar to how humans can ignore background noises when falling asleep. The inability to close eyes also means fish rely heavily on other senses for protection during rest. Many fish have well-developed lateral line systems, sensory organs that detect vibrations and changes in water pressure. This helps them stay aware of nearby movement or threats, even when their brain activity is reduced. This sensory vigilance is a crucial adaptation, as fish must balance the need for rest with the constant danger posed by predators and environmental changes. Another fascinating adaptation related to sleep and eye protection comes from some species of sharks. While most sharks lack eyelids, many have a unique structure called a nictitating membrane, which is a thin, translucent flap that can cover the eye to protect it during feeding or injury. This membrane can act like a protective third eyelid, though it is not used specifically for sleep. It's an example of how different fish species have evolved unique eye-related adaptations for their specific needs. Furthermore, some fish might show micro-movements or partial closure of the eye during rest. Although true eyelids are absent, subtle changes in the eye's appearance or slight muscle contractions might reduce light exposure or help maintain focus without full closure. However, these movements are generally minor and don't resemble the complete eye-closing behavior we see in mammals or birds. Because fish eyes stay open, light conditions in their environment can influence their rest patterns. Many fish are more active during daylight and rest when it's dark or dim, following circadian rhythms linked to the natural day-night cycle. During these darker periods, fish might reduce eye sensitivity or process visual information differently, facilitating rest despite open eyes. The lack of eyelids also raises interesting questions about dreaming in fish. Since closing eyes is often associated with entering deeper sleep stages like REM sleep in humans, where dreaming occurs, it's unclear whether fish experience dreaming or anything comparable. Without eyelids and with continuous sensory input, their brain activity during rest is probably quite different, which suggests their sleep may be lighter or less complex. In sum, fish have adapted to rest and sleep without the ability to close their eyes by developing behaviors and physiological mechanisms that allow them to conserve energy and reduce brain activity while maintaining visual awareness. Their open eyes are a reminder that sleep is not a one-size-fits-all phenomenon, but a flexible, varied process shaped by the environment and evolutionary needs of each species. This fascinating adaptation shows us just how diverse life can be when it comes to the essential need for rest and renewal. Another intriguing aspect of fish sleep is how different species exhibit varying sleep behaviors. Fish are an incredibly diverse group of animals, with over 34,000 known species inhabiting environments ranging from deep ocean trenches to shallow freshwater streams. Because of this vast diversity, sleep or rest behaviors in fish vary widely, depending on their ecological niche, physiology, and survival strategies. Understanding this variety helps us appreciate that fish don't all sleep in the same way, and many have developed unique adaptations suited to their particular lifestyles. For example, some fish live in environments where hiding places are abundant, such as coral reefs or rocky riverbeds. These fish often take advantage of crevices, caves, or dense vegetation to rest safely. During their rest periods, they might wedge themselves into tight spaces where predators can't easily reach them. By remaining still and concealed, these fish reduce energy expenditure and lower their risk of attack. Such behavior closely resembles how many terrestrial animals seek shelter when sleeping, emphasizing the importance of safety during vulnerable rest periods. Other species of fish inhabit open water environments where shelter is scarce or non-existent. These fish, such as some pelagic species, cannot simply hide away during rest. Instead, they may exhibit behaviors like slow, rhythmic swimming that allows them to maintain oxygen flow over their gills while entering a state of reduced activity. This sleep swimming has been observed in species like certain sharks and tuna. In these cases, the fish remain semi-alert and continue moving to survive, demonstrating a remarkable adaptation to their open water habitats. Some fish species have developed even more specialized adaptations related to sleep. For instance, parrotfish are known to secrete a mucus cocoon around themselves at night. This gelatinous envelope may serve multiple functions. It could mask the fish's scent to deter nocturnal predators, provide a physical barrier against parasites, or act as a form of camouflage. While resting inside this cocoon, the fish remains mostly still and exhibits signs of lowered responsiveness. This unique behavior highlights the variety of strategies fish use to protect themselves during rest. Certain species of fish display what scientists call unihemispheric rest, where one half of the brain remains active while the other half rests. Though this is well documented in marine mammals and some birds, evidence for it in fish is still being explored. However, some fish have been observed exhibiting behaviors that suggest they might rest parts of their brain at a time, allowing them to maintain essential functions like swimming or predator vigilance while still resting. Diurnal and nocturnal patterns also influence how fish rest. Diurnal fish, which are active during the day, typically rest or enter sleep-like states at night. Nocturnal fish, on the other hand, rest during the day and become active after sunset. This behavioral pattern is closely linked to the fish's environment, food availability, and predator activity. Seasonal changes in light and temperature can also impact these rhythms, causing fish to adjust their rest schedules accordingly. Some species engage in short, intermittent rest periods, rather than one long, continuous sleep. This polyphasic pattern involves multiple bouts of rest spread throughout the 24-hour cycle. Such sleep fragmentation may be advantageous in environments where constant vigilance is necessary or food availability is unpredictable. Fragmented rest allows fish to maintain awareness and responsiveness while still obtaining the restorative benefits of sleep. Fish that inhabit extreme environments such as deep sea or Arctic waters exhibit unique rest behaviors adapted to harsh conditions. Deep sea fish often live in near total darkness and under immense pressure, where metabolic rates tend to be low. These fish may have prolonged periods of low activity that function similarly to sleep, conserving energy in an environment where food is scarce. Arctic fish, living in frigid temperatures and extended periods of daylight or darkness, adjust their rest patterns seasonally to cope with these challenges. Social behavior also influences sleep in fish. Schooling species may synchronize their rest periods to maintain group cohesion and reduce predation risk. By resting collectively, the school can benefit from the many eyes effect, where some individuals remain more alert while others rest. This shared vigilance provides safety in numbers, allowing fish to balance rest with the need for protection. Parental care behaviors can modify sleep patterns as well. In some species, where males or females guard eggs or young, rest may be reduced or interrupted to ensure the safety of offspring. These fish may enter lighter rest states or take very brief naps to maintain vigilance. This adaptive flexibility shows how ecological and social pressures shape sleep behavior. Overall, the variety of sleep and rest behaviors in fish is astonishing. Rather than a one-size-fits-all sleep model, fish demonstrate an array of strategies that reflect their diverse habitats, life histories, and survival needs. This diversity challenges our traditional understanding of sleep and reminds us that the ways animals rest can be as varied as the environments they live in. By studying these different behaviors, scientists continue to unravel how fish balance the need for rest with the demands of their aquatic worlds. It's a reminder that sleep is not just a human or mammal experience, but a fundamental biological process that has evolved many forms across the animal kingdom. When considering whether fish sleep, it's important to explore the fascinating concept of whether fish dream. Dreaming is most commonly associated with mammals and birds, particularly during a phase of sleep known as REM, rapid eye movement sleep, where brain activity shows patterns similar to wakefulness and vivid dreams often occur. But do fish, with their very different brain structures and sleep behaviors, experience anything like dreams? To understand this, we first need to examine what dreaming actually entails. In humans and many mammals, dreaming is linked to complex brain activity in the cerebral cortex and limbic system. These brain regions are involved in processing emotions, memories, and sensory information. During REM sleep, the brain cycles through intense activity that is thought to play a role in memory consolidation, problem-solving, and emotional regulation, all while the sleeper experiences vivid mental imagery. Fish, however, lack the highly developed cerebral cortex that mammals possess. Their brains are simpler and organized differently, which raises the question of whether they have the neural hardware necessary for dreaming. Without a cortex or similar structures, it is difficult for fish to experience the kind of complex, visual, and emotional experiences we associate with dreams. Nevertheless, this does not entirely rule out the possibility of some form of mental processing during rest. Scientists have observed that fish enter states of reduced responsiveness and activity that resemble sleep, but the brainwave patterns typical of REM sleep have not been documented in fish. While some fish do exhibit changes in brain electrical activity during rest, these patterns don't show the hallmarks of REM phases seen in mammals and birds. This suggests that if fish do have dreams, they are unlikely to be vivid or complex in the way we imagine. Another angle to consider is that dreaming may serve functions like memory consolidation and neural development. Since fish also exhibit learning behaviors and memory, it's reasonable to speculate that some form of neural processing happens during their rest periods. This could be a simpler form of mental activity that helps fish process daily experiences, navigate their environments better, or remember food sources and threats. Interestingly, some scientists have proposed that dreaming is just one form of sleep-related brain activity, and that the core function of sleep might be restorative, allowing the brain and body to recover and reorganize. If this is the case, fish might experience a more basic or rudimentary form of sleep that lacks dreaming but still fulfills essential biological needs. It's also important to note that dreams are a subjective experience, meaning they are difficult to study scientifically even in humans, let alone in fish. Without the ability to report experiences, researchers rely on indirect evidence like brain activity and behavior, which limits our understanding. Moreover, some fish species show behaviors that might hint at subconscious processing during rest. For example, certain fish display signs of memory retention and learned avoidance after resting, which implies that their brains remain somewhat active during rest periods. While this is not direct evidence of dreaming, it suggests that rest in fish serves cognitive functions beyond simple physical recovery. In some species, periods of rest are punctuated by brief movements or muscle twitches, which in mammals sometimes correlate with dream-related activity. Whether these movements in fish indicate anything similar is still unknown, but it adds an intriguing piece to the puzzle. Another perspective is that dreaming could be linked to the complexity of social behaviors and environmental challenges. Animals with more complex social interactions, like dolphins or primates, tend to have more elaborate sleep cycles and dreams. Since many fish have simpler social lives and face different survival challenges, the evolutionary pressure to develop dreaming might not have been strong. Despite the uncertainties, studying fish sleep and the possibility of dreaming provides valuable insights into how brains have evolved across species and how fundamental rest is to all life forms. It challenges us to rethink the nature of consciousness and the diversity of sleep. In the end, while it's unlikely that fish dream in the vivid, narrative way humans do, it remains a fascinating question that encourages ongoing research. The study of fish rest and brain activity continues to uncover surprises about the mysterious world beneath the water's surface and the many ways life adapts to balance rest and wakefulness. One of the most fascinating aspects of fish sleep is how it can vary dramatically depending on whether a species is nocturnal or diurnal. These terms refer to the times of day when animals are most active. Diurnal animals are awake during the day and rest at night, while nocturnal animals do the opposite, being active at night and resting during the day. This distinction has profound effects on how and when fish sleep, as their behaviors are closely tied to the rhythms of light and darkness in their environments. Fish, like many other animals, have evolved internal biological clocks known as circadian rhythms. These rhythms help regulate cycles of activity, rest, feeding, and hormone production over roughly 24-hour periods, aligning their behaviors with the day-night cycle. For diurnal fish, the day is a time of feeding, swimming, and social interaction, while nighttime becomes a period for rest and recovery. Conversely, nocturnal fish have their active phase during the night, when they hunt and forage, and retreat to rest during daylight hours. Understanding how these rhythms work is key to appreciating the diversity of fish sleep patterns. For example, diurnal fish often seek out secure resting spots at night, such as crevices, coral branches, or dense vegetation. They typically reduce their movement and enter a state of quiescence, where responsiveness to external stimuli is lowered. During these resting periods, energy consumption drops, and physiological processes like digestion and tissue repair are enhanced. Nocturnal fish exhibit a mirror image of this behavior. During the day, they find safe shelters or burrow into the substrate to avoid predators and conserve energy. As night falls, they become more active, swimming, hunting for food, or engaging in mating behaviors. Their rest periods happen during bright daylight, often in places where light is filtered or blocked to simulate darkness, allowing their biological clocks to maintain a consistent schedule despite environmental fluctuations. Some fish species are crepuscular, meaning they are most active during dawn and dusk. These species have adapted their rest and activity patterns to take advantage of the low light conditions at these times, which often correspond to the movement of prey or a reduction in predator activity. Crepuscular fish may sleep during the full daylight or night, depending on their specific ecological niche. The way light influences fish sleep is not just behavioral, but also physiological. Exposure to light affects the production of melatonin, a hormone involved in regulating sleep and circadian rhythms. In fish, melatonin levels typically rise in darkness and fall in light, signaling the body to prepare for rest or activity. This hormonal regulation helps synchronize sleep patterns with environmental conditions, ensuring that fish are awake and alert when conditions are optimal for feeding and avoiding danger. Interestingly, some fish species have adapted to environments with unusual light cycles, such as those living in polar regions, where months of continuous daylight or darkness occur. In these extreme habitats, fish may show flexible sleep patterns that do not strictly follow a 24-hour rhythm, but adjust seasonally. They might take multiple short naps throughout the day or maintain longer periods of rest to compensate for the lack of traditional day-night cues. Aquarium observations have also shed light on how light cycles affect fish sleep. Fish kept under artificial lighting often follow the imposed light-dark schedule, resting when the lights go off and becoming active when they come on. Disruptions to these cycles, such as constant light exposure, can stress fish and affect their health by interfering with their natural sleep rhythms. The diversity of light-based sleep behaviors among fish illustrates how crucial environmental cues are for regulating rest. It also underscores the adaptability of fish to different habitats and lifestyles. Some species have evolved to thrive in brightly lit shallow waters with clear daily rhythms, while others have adapted to the dim, murky depths or the perpetual darkness of caves. In aquatic ecosystems, the timing of rest and activity in fish has broader ecological implications. It affects predator-prey relationships, feeding competition, and reproductive behaviors. By synchronizing their sleep and active phases with the environment, fish optimize their survival chances and contribute to the balance of their communities. Ultimately, whether a fish is nocturnal, diurnal, or crepuscular shapes when and how it sleeps, reflecting the intimate connection between biology and environment. Studying these patterns not only helps answer the question of whether fish sleep, but also reveals the incredible ways nature has evolved to manage rest in the underwater world. The environments where fish live have a profound impact on how they rest and sleep, often shaping their sleep behaviors in fascinating ways. Fish inhabit an astonishing variety of habitats, ranging from the shallow, sunlit waters of coral reefs to the pitch-black depths of the ocean, from fast-flowing rivers to stagnant ponds, and even underwater caves. Each of these environments presents unique challenges and opportunities that influence how fish manage their rest. In shallow waters, such as coral reefs or riverbanks, fish often experience fluctuating light conditions, temperature changes, and abundant predators. These environments typically provide many hiding places, crevices, plants, rocks, that fish use to shelter themselves during rest periods. Because predators are more active during the day or night depending on the species, fish must time their rest carefully, often retreating to safe spots and reducing movement to avoid detection. Deeper ocean environments tell a different story. In the deep sea, where sunlight doesn't penetrate, fish live in near total darkness and under immense pressure. Food is scarce, and the environment is cold and stable. Here, fish may rest in a way that conserves as much energy as possible. Their metabolic rates are generally slower, and they may remain motionless for long periods. Sleep-like states in these conditions might be less about protection from predators and more about conserving energy in a resource-poor setting. Some deep-sea fish have fascinating adaptations to their dark environment. Certain species produce bioluminescent light, which they use for communication, hunting, or camouflage. Rest periods in these fish could involve dimming or turning off these light-producing organs to avoid attracting unwanted attention. Such adaptations show how sleep and rest behaviors can be linked to unique environmental features. In freshwater environments, fish must contend with changing water flow, oxygen levels, and sometimes murky conditions. Many freshwater fish rest by wedging themselves into rocks or burrowing into mud or sand. This behavior not only protects them from predators, but also helps them conserve energy when oxygen might be lower during the night or certain seasons. Fish that inhabit caves offer some of the most intriguing examples of environmental influence on sleep. Cave fish often live in total darkness and have evolved to lose their eyesight altogether. Without the usual light cues to regulate their biological clocks, these fish sometimes display irregular or absent circadian rhythms. Their rest patterns can be unpredictable, showing how the environment directly shapes biological processes like sleep. The temperature of a fish's environment also affects rest. Fish are ectothermic, meaning their body temperature changes with the surrounding water. In colder waters, metabolic processes slow down, and fish may enter longer or deeper rest states to conserve energy. Conversely, in warmer waters, metabolic rates increase, potentially requiring shorter but more frequent rest periods. Seasonal changes bring additional complexity. In temperate regions, fish experience varying day lengths and water temperatures throughout the year. Many species adjust their activity and rest cycles accordingly, sometimes entering periods of dormancy or reduced activity during winter months, akin to hibernation. This seasonal modulation of sleep helps them survive times when food is scarce or environmental conditions are harsh. Pollution and human-induced changes to aquatic habitats also impact fish sleep. Artificial light pollution, chemical contaminants, and habitat destruction can disrupt natural light cycles and environmental cues, causing stress and altering rest behaviors. Studies have shown that fish exposed to constant light or noisy environments may experience fragmented or reduced rest, which can affect growth, reproduction, and immune function. Aquaculture and aquarium settings provide controlled environments where scientists and hobbyists can observe how environmental changes affect fish sleep. Adjusting light cycles, water temperature, and habitat complexity in captivity has revealed just how sensitive fish are to their surroundings when it comes to rest. These findings highlight the importance of creating naturalistic environments for fish in captivity to promote healthy sleep patterns. The interplay between environment and sleep also influences evolutionary adaptations in fish. Over millions of years, fish species have evolved sleep behaviors and physiological mechanisms tailored to their habitats. This evolutionary perspective explains the incredible diversity of rest strategies seen across fish species, each uniquely suited to their ecological niche. By understanding how different environments shape fish sleep, researchers gain insight into the broader biological significance of rest and the adaptability of life. It shows us that sleep is not a fixed behavior, but a dynamic process that can change dramatically in response to the demands and challenges of the natural world. Understanding how fish sleep isn't just an interesting curiosity. It also has important implications for their health and well-being. Like all animals, fish need rest to recover physically and mentally, maintain their immune systems, and perform essential biological functions. Without adequate rest, fish can experience stress, weakened immunity, impaired growth, and even reduced lifespan. Studying fish sleep helps us appreciate how vital this process is to their survival and thriving in diverse environments. Sleep or rest serves many restorative functions in fish, just as it does in mammals and birds. One of the primary benefits is energy conservation. When fish enter a sleep-like state, their metabolic rate slows, allowing them to use less energy at times when they are not actively foraging, escaping predators, or reproducing. This conservation is particularly critical in environments where food availability fluctuates or is scarce. By reducing energy demands during rest, fish improve their overall efficiency and increase their chances of survival. Another key function of sleep in fish is tissue repair and growth. During rest, physiological processes accelerate to repair cellular damage that accumulates during active periods. This includes healing wounds, renewing skin and scales, and maintaining muscle integrity. For young fish or species with rapid growth rates, adequate rest is crucial to support healthy development. Similarly, during breeding seasons, when fish exert high energy in mating displays or nest building, sleep helps restore physical reserves. Immune system function is also closely tied to rest. Like other vertebrates, fish rely on a robust immune response to fight infections and parasites common in aquatic environments. Studies have shown that fish deprived of rest or exposed to stressful conditions exhibit reduced immune responses, making them more susceptible to disease. Proper sleep cycles help regulate immune cells and hormones, supporting the fish's ability to ward off illness. In addition to physical restoration, sleep plays a role in brain function and behavior. Though fish brains are less complex than those of mammals, they still require periods of reduced sensory input and neural activity to process information and consolidate memories. For example, fish that learn to navigate mazes or recognize predators show better performance when they have adequate rest. This suggests that sleep supports cognitive functions critical for survival in complex environments. Stress reduction is another important benefit of sleep for fish. Stress in fish can arise from numerous sources, such as predators, competition, environmental changes, and human activity. Prolonged stress without sufficient rest can lead to chronic health problems, including hormonal imbalances, decreased appetite, and behavioral changes. Rest allows fish to lower stress hormone levels and regain physiological balance. Understanding fish sleep has practical implications for fisheries, aquaculture, and aquarium management. Fish raised in captivity, whether for food or as pets, require environments that support natural rest behaviors. Poor lighting schedules, overcrowding, or constant disturbances can interfere with fish sleep, leading to poor health and reduced growth rates. By optimizing conditions to mimic natural light cycles and providing adequate shelter, caretakers can promote healthier and more resilient fish populations. Fish sleep research also contributes to conservation efforts. As aquatic habitats face increasing threats from pollution, climate change, and habitat destruction, Understanding how these factors disrupt fish rest helps inform protective measures. For instance, light pollution from coastal development can interfere with fish circadian rhythms, leading to disorientation and increased vulnerability to predators. Recognizing these impacts can guide policies to minimize human interference. Moreover, sleep studies in fish can provide insights into the evolution of sleep itself. Since fish are among the earliest vertebrates, their sleep behaviors shed light on how rest mechanisms have developed across millions of years. Understanding the fundamental roles of sleep in simpler animals like fish helps scientists unravel the basic biological needs and functions of rest that are shared across the animal kingdom. In summary, fish sleep is not just a biological curiosity, but a cornerstone of their health and survival. Adequate rest supports energy conservation, tissue repair, immune defense, brain function, and stress reduction. By studying how fish sleep and what factors influence it, we gain valuable knowledge that benefits ecology, conservation, and even human industries that rely on fish. Recognizing the importance of fish sleep underscores the complexity and sophistication of life beneath the water's surface. Fish sleeping patterns vary widely, not only between species, but also within species, depending on their age and stage of life. Just like in humans and other animals, the sleep needs and behaviors of fish change as they grow from larvae to adults and even into old age. Understanding these developmental changes sheds light on the complexity of fish sleep and highlights how essential rest is at every life stage. Young fish, especially larvae and juveniles, tend to have different sleep patterns compared to adults. In the early stages of life, fish are growing rapidly and developing critical physiological systems. During this time, sleep or rest is particularly important to support brain development, tissue growth, and immune system maturation. Studies show that young fish often spend more time in restful states than adults, possibly to aid in neural circuit formation and sensory processing. Larval fish can be surprisingly sensitive to environmental cues that regulate their sleep-wake cycles. Light exposure, water temperature, and even the presence of predators can influence how and when they rest. For instance, some larvae exhibit fragmented rest periods throughout the day and night, rather than consolidated sleep blocks. This pattern may reflect the need for frequent feeding and the high metabolic demands of rapid growth. As fish grow into juveniles and approach adulthood, their sleep patterns often become more structured. They may develop clearer circadian rhythms, aligning their rest and activity more closely with day and night cycles. This change helps juveniles optimize energy use, avoid predators, and engage in social behaviors such as schooling or territoriality. Sleep during this stage supports the fine-tuning of sensory systems and motor skills that are vital for survival. Adult fish generally display the most defined and consistent sleep behaviors, though these can vary widely by species and environment. Adults have established routines that balance rest with foraging, mating, and territory defense. The quality and quantity of sleep in adult fish influence reproductive success, immune function, and longevity. Fish that experience poor sleep due to environmental stressors or captivity often show reduced fertility and higher mortality rates. Interestingly, aging fish can experience changes in sleep similar to those observed in mammals, including humans. Older fish may have altered sleep architecture, such as lighter or more fragmented rest periods. This can be due to physiological changes like declining sensory function, hormonal shifts, or increased susceptibility to disease. Reduced sleep quality in aging fish might contribute to slower recovery times and diminished cognitive abilities. The developmental shifts in fish sleep are also linked to changes in brain structure and chemistry. For example, the maturation of neurotransmitter systems that regulate sleep and wakefulness, such as serotonin and dopamine pathways, evolves over the fish's lifespan. These neurochemical changes influence how fish enter and maintain restful states, respond to environmental cues, and recover from stress. Research on fish sleep development has practical implications, especially in aquaculture and conservation. Knowing that young fish require more frequent and perhaps different types of rest can inform how hatcheries manage lighting, feeding schedules, and tank environments to promote healthy growth. Similarly, protecting the natural habitats of juvenile fish ensures they have suitable conditions for safe rest, which is critical for their survival and recruitment into adult populations. In addition to physical and neurological development, behavioral maturation also affects sleep. As fish learn to navigate their environments, avoid predators, and interact with conspecifics, their sleep needs and patterns adapt accordingly. Social species may synchronize rest periods to maintain group cohesion, while solitary species might develop unique sleep strategies that prioritize safety and energy conservation. Understanding these age-related variations also provides insight into the evolutionary pressures shaping sleep. Species with high predation risks during juvenile stages may evolve to sleep in safer, more sheltered places, or develop shorter, more fragmented rest to remain vigilant. Conversely, species with fewer threats might afford longer, deeper sleep to maximize physiological restoration. Overall, the changing sleep patterns throughout a fish's life emphasize the importance of rest as a dynamic and essential process. It supports not only immediate survival, but also long-term health, growth, and reproductive success. By appreciating how sleep evolves from larva to adult and beyond, we gain a deeper understanding of the biological rhythms that govern life underwater. The question of whether fish have dreams invites us to explore the fascinating relationship between sleep and brain activity, a topic that bridges biology, neuroscience, and even philosophy. Dreams are generally understood as experiences that occur during certain phases of sleep in mammals and birds, especially during the rapid eye movement, or REM, stage. During REM sleep, the brain exhibits activity patterns similar to wakefulness, and vivid, often narrative-like images and sensations arise in the mind. But fish have very different brain structures and sleep patterns, so do they experience anything akin to dreams? To begin with, dreaming is closely linked to the presence of a highly developed cerebral cortex in mammals and birds. This part of the brain processes complex sensory input, emotions, and memories, creating the rich mental landscapes that we recognize as dreams. Fish, on the other hand, lack a cortex or have a much simpler version of it. Their brains are organized differently, with less capacity for the kind of higher-order processing associated with dreaming. Scientists have tried to understand fish sleep by measuring brain activity using electroencephalograms, EEGs. But the patterns found in fish do not include the distinctive REM sleep phases seen in humans and many mammals. Without REM sleep, the likelihood of fish experiencing dreams similar to ours is low. However, the absence of REM does not mean fish don't have any form of mental processing during rest. Sleep in fish is more about entering a state of reduced activity and responsiveness, which helps conserve energy and allows the body to repair itself. It's possible that during this restful state, fish brains process information from the day in simpler ways. For instance, they may consolidate memories of food locations, predators, or social interactions. While this kind of neural processing wouldn't involve vivid imagery or complex narratives, it suggests some level of mental activity during rest. In some fish species, behaviors observed during rest include slight twitching or changes in fin movement. In mammals, such twitching during sleep sometimes correlates with dreaming and brain activity. But in fish, these movements might simply be reflexive or related to maintaining balance and buoyancy. There is no direct evidence linking these movements to dreaming states. The evolutionary purpose of dreaming is still debated, but many theories suggest it helps with memory consolidation, emotional processing, and problem solving. Fish certainly have memories and can learn from experience, indicating that some form of neural consolidation occurs. But whether this requires something we'd call dreaming is uncertain. Their simpler brain structures might mean that this processing happens at a more basic, less conscious level. Interestingly, some aquatic mammals, like dolphins and seals, do exhibit REM sleep and are known to dream. This contrast shows that complex sleep patterns and dreaming are associated with more developed brains and social structures which fish generally lack. However, this does not diminish the importance of fish sleep. It simply points to the different evolutionary pathways of sleep across species. The study of fish sleep and dreaming also highlights how difficult it is to understand consciousness and subjective experiences in animals very different from humans. Since fish cannot report their experiences, scientists must infer mental states indirectly through behavior and brain measurements. This limitation means many questions about fish dreaming remain open. Nevertheless, exploring whether fish dream opens a broader dialogue about the nature of sleep itself. It challenges us to consider sleep as a spectrum of states, ranging from simple rest and metabolic slowdown to complex cycles involving vivid mental experiences. Fish likely fall toward the simpler end of this spectrum, resting deeply enough to benefit their health, but without the elaborate dream states we experience. In conclusion, while fish almost certainly do not dream in the way humans do, they experience restful states vital for survival. Their sleep supports essential physiological and cognitive functions, albeit without the complex brain activity linked to dreaming. This difference reminds us that sleep is a fundamental biological process, with many variations shaped by evolution, brain complexity, and environmental needs. The way fish sleep can be influenced by the unique demands of their social lives and the dynamics within their communities. Unlike solitary animals that may sleep without much concern for others, many fish live in groups or schools where social interactions shape their behavior, including rest. The social environment affects not only when and where fish sleep, but also how safe and effective their rest periods are. Understanding social factors in fish sleep reveals a layer of complexity that goes beyond individual biology and ties into the survival strategies of entire populations. In many species that form schools or shoals, rest is often synchronized to some degree. This coordination allows the group to maintain cohesion and reduces vulnerability to predators. When fish sleep in a group, there is safety in numbers. While some individuals rest, others remain alert, creating a kind of collective vigilance. This communal rest strategy helps fish reduce individual risk and maintain overall group safety. For instance, some schooling fish take turns being more alert or staying near the edges of the group, acting like sentinels, while others sleep more deeply in the center, where protection is greatest. Social hierarchy also plays a role in sleep patterns. In species with dominant and subordinate individuals, access to prime resting spots, safe, sheltered, or hidden areas may depend on social rank. Dominant fish might secure the best sleeping quarters, forcing subordinates to rest in less protected or more exposed locations. This can lead to differences in sleep quality and duration within a group. Subordinate fish sleeping in more dangerous spots may adopt lighter or more fragmented rest to stay alert, which could impact their health and growth over time. Communication within social groups often continues during rest periods, albeit at a lower intensity. Fish use visual signals, body movements, or subtle vibrations to maintain contact with their neighbors. Even while resting, they may respond to changes in group dynamics or potential threats. This partial awareness requires fish to balance the need for sleep with the need for social monitoring, influencing how deeply and for how long they sleep. In some species, social interactions before sleep can affect the quality of rest. For example, aggressive encounters, mating displays, or territorial disputes may elevate stress hormones, which in turn disrupt sleep patterns. After such events, fish may require longer or deeper rest to recover. Conversely, positive social interactions, like cooperative hunting or mutual grooming behaviors seen in some species, may promote relaxation and facilitate better sleep. Parental care behaviors also influence sleep. In species where one or both parents guard eggs or fry, adults may reduce their rest or take turns sleeping to ensure offspring protection. This sacrifice of sleep highlights how reproductive strategies impact rest and how fish balance biological needs with survival priorities. Parental fish may become more vigilant, sleeping in short bursts or lighter states to respond quickly to threats. Environmental disturbances affecting social groups, such as habitat degradation or increased human activity, can disrupt these social sleep patterns. Noise pollution, water turbulence, or overcrowding may interfere with communication and synchronization, leading to fragmented rest and increased stress. This disruption not only affects individual fish, but can destabilize the social structure and reduce the group's overall resilience. Researchers studying fish social behavior have noted intriguing examples where groups exhibit near-simultaneous resting behaviors, suggesting some form of social cueing or communication that coordinates sleep. These findings open new avenues for understanding how complex social systems influence fundamental biological processes like rest. It also raises questions about whether fish possess more advanced social awareness during sleep than previously thought. The social aspect of fish sleep highlights the importance of considering ecological and behavioral contexts when studying animal rest. Sleep is not just a private, internal process, but one embedded in the web of social relationships and environmental pressures. For fish, living in groups provides both benefits and challenges that shape how they rest and recover. In summary, social factors play a significant role in shaping fish sleep behaviors. Group living demands coordination and vigilance, influencing when, where, and how fish rest. Social hierarchy affects access to safe resting places, while communication and social interactions before and during rest impact sleep quality. Parental responsibilities and environmental stressors further complicate these patterns. Understanding these social dynamics enriches our appreciation of fish sleep as a complex, adaptive behavior essential for survival in the wild. Fish rely heavily on their senses to navigate the aquatic world, find food, avoid predators, and interact with their environment. But when it comes to sleep, these sensory systems behave in interesting and sometimes surprising ways. Unlike humans, who often experience sensory shutoff or reduction during sleep, fish exhibit a variety of sensory responses that depend on the species, environment, and the type of rest they enter. Exploring how fish senses function during sleep reveals much about their unique adaptations and survival strategies. One of the most obvious senses affected by sleep is vision. Since many fish live in environments where light levels fluctuate dramatically between day and night, their eyes have evolved to adapt accordingly. During rest, fish often reduce visual input by partially closing their eyelids, though many species do not have eyelids at all, or by lowering their activity so as to avoid overstimulation. In species without eyelids, fish may rely on behavioral cues, such as hiding in shaded or dark areas, to reduce light exposure and signal to their brains that it's time to rest. This reduction in visual stimuli helps them conserve energy and avoid unnecessary reactions to environmental changes. However, not all fish sleep in complete darkness or sensory shutdown. Some species remain somewhat alert visually, especially if they inhabit environments with high predator presence. They may enter a light rest, where their eyes remain open or partially open, allowing them to quickly respond to threats. This phenomenon, sometimes called unihemispheric sleep in other animals like dolphins, where one half of the brain rests, while the other remains alert, has not been conclusively observed in fish. But partial sensory alertness certainly occurs. The lateral line system, unique to fish and some amphibians, is another sensory organ that plays a vital role during sleep. This system detects water vibrations and movements, helping fish sense approaching predators or changes in water currents. During sleep, the sensitivity of the lateral line may be modulated rather than completely turned off. This allows fish to remain somewhat aware of their surroundings even while resting, a crucial survival adaptation. Fish sleeping in groups may especially benefit from lateral line awareness to maintain group cohesion and detect disturbances. Olfaction, or the sense of smell, also functions differently during sleep. Smell is critical for many fish species in finding food, avoiding predators, and identifying mates. While there is limited research on olfactory activity during fish sleep, it is believed that smell sensitivity decreases during deeper rest phases, but may still function at a low level. This reduced, but not absent, olfactory perception might help fish remain aware of chemical signals indicating danger or changes in water quality, while still gaining restorative benefits from sleep. Hearing and detecting vibrations through the inner ear and lateral line also show interesting dynamics during fish rest. Fish can pick up low-frequency sounds and vibrations that signal predator approach, or social interactions. Similar to the lateral line, these auditory systems may maintain a level of sensitivity during sleep to alert the fish to threats or environmental changes. This balance between rest and vigilance is vital, especially for species that rest in open water or environments with less physical shelter. Touch and proprioception, the sense of body position and movement, are also integral during sleep. Fish need to maintain posture and balance even while resting to avoid drifting into unsafe areas or expending excessive energy correcting position. Sensory feedback from muscles and skin helps fish make subtle adjustments during sleep, sometimes visible as gentle fin movements or shifts in body angle. This sensory motor integration supports stable resting states without complete paralysis, which could be dangerous in water environments. Interestingly, some fish exhibit behaviors during sleep that suggest partial sensory processing and motor control. For example, some species adjust their gill movements and swim bladder inflation to regulate buoyancy while resting, relying on sensory input to maintain equilibrium. These subtle adjustments highlight that fish sleep is not a passive shutdown, but an active, regulated state. Environmental factors can also influence sensory function during sleep. Water turbidity, light pollution, and noise from human activity may interfere with natural sensory cues and disrupt rest. For instance, increased artificial light in coastal areas can prevent fish from adequately reducing visual input, leading to fragmented sleep. Similarly, underwater noise pollution may overstimulate auditory senses, causing stress and reduced sleep quality. The sensory adaptations during fish sleep demonstrate an elegant balance between the need to rest and the imperative to stay aware in a potentially dangerous environment. Unlike many terrestrial animals, fish must maintain certain sensory functions to survive in a medium where threats can approach silently and invisibly. This unique sensory management during sleep reflects the remarkable evolutionary solutions fish have developed to meet their ecological challenges. In summary, fish senses behave in complex ways during sleep, with many sensory systems downregulated but not entirely shut off. Vision often decreases through behavioral means rather than eyelid closure, while the lateral line system and auditory senses remain partially sensitive to detect threats. Olfactory and tactile senses also adjust to balance rest and awareness. These sensory modulations allow fish to enter restorative states while maintaining enough alertness to survive and respond to their ever-changing underwater environment. The environments fish inhabit have a profound impact on their sleep behaviors, shaping how, when, and where they rest. Unlike terrestrial animals that have relatively stable and predictable environments, aquatic habitats are incredibly diverse and dynamic. From coral reefs teeming with life to deep ocean trenches shrouded in darkness, the physical and biological characteristics of these environments influence fish sleep patterns in complex and fascinating ways. Exploring these environmental factors offers insights into the remarkable adaptability of fish sleep. One of the most influential environmental factors affecting fish sleep is light. Sunlight penetration varies widely across aquatic environments. In shallow, clear waters, light levels can be intense and fluctuate rapidly from day to night, prompting fish to adjust their activity cycles accordingly. Many fish in these environments adopt diurnal or nocturnal rest schedules, depending on when it's safest or most efficient to be active. For example, reef fish often rest during the night when predators that rely on vision are less effective, while nocturnal species may rest during the day and become active after sunset. In contrast, fish living in deep-sea environments experience near total darkness, regardless of the time of day. For these species, circadian rhythms may be less driven by light and more influenced by other environmental cues, such as water pressure, temperature changes, or food availability. Some deep-sea fish have developed unique sleep adaptations to cope with this constant darkness, including very slow metabolisms and possibly more fragmented rest patterns. Without light cues, these fish may rely heavily on internal biological clocks or chemical signals to regulate rest cycles. Water temperature also plays a critical role in fish sleep. Because fish are ectothermic, meaning their body temperature varies with the environment, colder waters generally slow metabolic rates, which can influence the duration and depth of sleep. In colder habitats, fish may enter longer periods of rest to conserve energy, while in warmer waters, sleep cycles may be shorter but more frequent. Seasonal temperature fluctuations, such as those in temperate lakes or rivers, can cause fish to adjust their sleep behaviors, sometimes entering states similar to hibernation, where activity is drastically reduced. Oxygen levels in water are another key environmental factor affecting fish sleep. Oxygen concentration can vary with depth, temperature, and pollution levels. Low oxygen conditions, or hypoxia, can stress fish and alter their sleep patterns. In some cases, fish reduce activity and enter more extended rest periods to minimize oxygen consumption. However, if oxygen levels drop too low, fish may become restless or even incapable of proper rest, which can have serious health consequences. Some species have evolved mechanisms to cope with hypoxia, such as adjusting gill function or seeking microhabitats with higher oxygen, ensuring that their sleep is not compromised. The structural complexity of a fish's habitat also influences sleep. Environments with plenty of hiding spots, like coral reefs, rocky crevices, or submerged vegetation, provide safe refuges where fish can rest, with reduced risk of predation. Fish in these habitats often sleep in sheltered locations, sometimes even burrowing into the substrate or wedging themselves between coral branches. This physical protection allows for deeper and more uninterrupted sleep. Conversely, fish in open water or barren habitats may adopt lighter or more fragmented sleep states to remain vigilant. Predation pressure in an environment shapes fish sleep strategies profoundly. In habitats with many predators, fish tend to be more cautious about when and where they rest. They may choose safer locations or adjust the timing of their sleep to periods of lower predator activity. Some fish species sleep in groups to increase safety, while others develop cryptic coloration or behaviors to avoid detection during vulnerable resting periods. In predator-rich environments, the balance between rest and alertness becomes a finely tuned survival mechanism. Human activities also increasingly impact fish sleep through habitat alteration and pollution. Coastal development, dredging, and water pollution can degrade or eliminate natural refuges, forcing fish to rest in less safe areas or remain active longer, disrupting natural sleep cycles. Light pollution from artificial sources disrupts natural light-dark cycles, confusing fish and potentially leading to chronic sleep deprivation. Noise pollution from boats and industrial activity can interfere with sensory cues, causing stress and fragmented rest. These anthropogenic changes highlight the importance of preserving aquatic habitats to maintain healthy fish sleep behaviors. The presence of other species in an ecosystem can further influence fish sleep. Symbiotic relationships, competition, and predator-prey interactions all play roles in shaping rest patterns. For example, cleaner fish that remove parasites from larger fish may have sleep schedules aligned with their hosts to maximize interaction opportunities. Similarly, prey species might adjust rest times to avoid overlap with active predators, while competitors might stagger activity to reduce direct conflicts. In some environments, seasonal changes dramatically alter sleep behaviors. Migratory fish, like salmon, undergo physiological changes during their journeys that affect rest. During migration, fish may reduce sleep to maintain constant movement, while during spawning or resting phases, they may increase rest to recover energy. These seasonal adaptations illustrate the flexible nature of fish sleep in response to environmental demands. Overall, the environment is a critical determinant of fish sleep. Light, temperature, oxygen levels, habitat structure, predation pressure, and human impacts interact in complex ways to shape how fish rest. These adaptations demonstrate the incredible diversity and resilience of fish species, as they balance the need for restorative sleep with the challenges of their ever-changing aquatic worlds. The study of fish sleep presents unique challenges and fascinating opportunities for scientists. Unlike mammals or birds, where sleep can be monitored relatively easily through brainwave activity and observable behaviors, fish are more difficult to study due to their aquatic environment and differing physiology. Over the years, researchers have developed innovative methods to understand how fish rest, revealing a complex picture of sleep that varies widely across species and environments. One of the primary challenges in studying fish sleep is measuring brain activity underwater. Traditional sleep studies in mammals rely heavily on electroencephalograms, EEGs, which record electrical activity in the brain to identify different sleep stages, including REM and non-REM sleep. Applying EEGs to fish is complicated by their aquatic environment, the small size of many species, and the fact that many fish brains are organized quite differently from those of mammals. Nonetheless, researchers have adapted EEG technology for fish, often by gently restraining or anesthetizing individuals in controlled laboratory settings. These studies have provided valuable insights but also come with limitations, as conditions in captivity differ from natural habitats. Behavioral observation remains one of the most accessible ways to study fish sleep. Scientists look for signs such as reduced movement, decreased responsiveness to stimuli, changes in posture, and preferred resting locations. For example, certain fish become motionless, tuck their fins close to their bodies, or hide in crevices during rest. These behaviors suggest states of reduced consciousness or metabolic slowdown, which researchers interpret as sleep-like. However, distinguishing true sleep from simple inactivity or resting behavior requires careful experimental design, including tests of responsiveness and recovery after deprivation. In addition to direct observation, technological advances have opened new windows into fish sleep. Infrared cameras and underwater video allow for non-invasive monitoring of nocturnal or hidden species in their natural habitats. This technology has revealed surprising sleep behaviors, such as schooling fish coordinating their rest, or certain species exhibiting unique postures or locations during sleep. Remote sensing also helps avoid the stress and behavioral changes induced by human presence. Researchers have also begun to study the molecular and genetic aspects of fish sleep. By examining the expression of genes related to sleep regulation, circadian rhythms, and neural activity, scientists gain clues about the underlying biological mechanisms. Zebrafish, a common model organism in genetic studies, have been instrumental in this field. Zebrafish display sleep-like states, and researchers can manipulate their genes to study the effects on sleep patterns and brain function. This molecular approach has helped identify genes and pathways conserved across vertebrates, shedding light on the evolutionary origins of sleep. Another innovative method involves the use of pharmacological agents to influence sleep. By administering substances that promote or inhibit sleep in fish, scientists can observe changes in behavior and brain activity, helping to clarify the neurochemical pathways involved. These experiments have revealed that neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and gamma-aminobutyric acid, GABA, play roles similar to those in mammals, suggesting some commonalities in sleep regulation. Comparative studies across species provide further insights. By examining fish with different ecological niches, such as nocturnal versus diurnal species, benthic versus pelagic dwellers, or species from freshwater versus marine environments, scientists understand how evolution has shaped sleep behaviors. For instance, species living in predator-rich environments often have lighter, more fragmented sleep compared to those in safer habitats. This comparative perspective highlights the adaptive nature of sleep and its dependence on ecological pressures. Despite these advances, many questions remain. The absence of REM sleep in most fish raises queries about what function sleep serves in these animals. How do fish consolidate memories, regulate metabolism, and maintain neural health without REM? Are there undiscovered sleep stages unique to fish? Ongoing research continues to explore these mysteries, often blending behavioral studies with cutting-edge neuroscience. Field studies are especially important for understanding fish sleep in natural conditions. Captive studies, while controlled, may not capture the full complexity of environmental influences on rest. Researchers conducting underwater observations and tagging fish with biometric sensors are gaining data on how wild fish balance sleep with feeding, migration, and predator avoidance. These studies contribute to a more holistic picture of fish sleep ecology. Finally, the study of fish sleep has broader implications for biology and medicine. Understanding how different organisms sleep enriches our knowledge of sleep's evolutionary origins and functions. It also informs aquaculture practices, helping improve fish health and welfare by optimizing conditions that support natural rest. Moreover, insights from fish sleep mechanisms could inspire novel treatments for human sleep disorders or brain injuries. In conclusion, studying fish sleep is a multidisciplinary endeavor that combines behavioral observation, neurophysiology, genetics, ecology, and technology. Although challenging, this research reveals the diverse strategies fish use to rest and maintain vital functions. Each discovery not only deepens our understanding of these remarkable creatures, but also sheds light on the fundamental nature of sleep itself, a universal yet varied phenomenon across the animal kingdom. Fish sleep, like sleep in many animals, is closely intertwined with their daily activity cycles, which are often governed by internal biological clocks known as circadian rhythms. These rhythms help organisms anticipate regular environmental changes, such as the daily light-dark cycle, and adjust their behavior and physiology accordingly. In fish, circadian rhythms influence not only when they are most active, but also when and how they rest. Understanding these rhythms offers key insights into the timing and nature of fish sleep. Circadian rhythms are controlled by molecular clocks located within cells throughout the fish's body, including specialized neurons in the brain. These clocks regulate the expression of genes and the production of hormones that govern wakefulness and rest. One of the most important hormones in this process is melatonin, often called the sleep hormone, which typically increases in the evening as light levels fall and signals to the body that it's time to prepare for rest. In fish, melatonin secretion follows a clear daily pattern, rising at night and decreasing with daylight, helping synchronize sleep with environmental cues. The synchronization of fish activity with circadian rhythms ensures that rest occurs during periods when it is safest and most energetically efficient. For many fish species, this means resting at night when vision-dependent predators are less effective and temperatures might be cooler. Conversely, nocturnal fish align their activity to nighttime and rest during daylight hours. These patterns can vary widely depending on the species' ecological niche, diet, and predator-prey relationships. Interestingly, fish that live in environments with minimal or no light cues, such as deep-sea habitats or turbid waters, exhibit circadian rhythms that are less tightly coupled to light-dark cycles. Instead, their internal clocks may rely on alternative environmental signals like food availability, water pressure changes, or even social interactions to regulate sleep and activity. This flexibility allows fish to maintain regular rest activity cycles, even in the absence of reliable external cues. Seasonal changes also influence fish circadian rhythms and sleep behaviors. In temperate regions, variations in day length and water temperature across seasons affect hormone levels and metabolic rates, prompting fish to adjust their rest periods. During winter, when days are shorter and water is colder, some fish reduce activity and enter states resembling torpor, extending their sleep duration. In contrast, longer daylight hours in summer may lead to shorter, more fragmented sleep. Disruptions to circadian rhythms can significantly impact fish health and behavior. Artificial lighting, especially in urban or coastal areas, interferes with natural melatonin cycles, confusing fish and potentially causing sleep deprivation or altered rest patterns. This can affect growth, immune function, and reproductive success. Noise pollution and habitat degradation also disrupt environmental cues, further challenging fish circadian regulation. Researchers study fish circadian rhythms by observing changes in activity levels under controlled light-dark cycles and constant conditions. These experiments demonstrate that fish maintain endogenous rhythms, continuing sleep-wake cycles even without external light cues, although the rhythms may gradually weaken over time. Molecular analyses reveal rhythmic gene expression patterns that align with behavioral observations, confirming the presence of internal biological clocks. Some fish species display remarkable adaptations to extreme environments with altered or absent light cycles. For instance, Arctic fish endure months of continuous daylight or darkness and adjust their circadian rhythms accordingly, sometimes dampening or shifting cycles to match seasonal extremes. Understanding these adaptations helps scientists explore the plasticity of circadian systems and their evolutionary significance. In addition to circadian rhythms, fish may also exhibit ultradian rhythms, shorter cycles of activity and rest within a 24-hour period. These ultradian cycles could be linked to feeding patterns, predator avoidance, or social interactions, further complicating the picture of fish sleep timing. For example, some fish alternate between brief periods of rest and activity throughout the day and night, rather than having a single consolidated sleep phase. The relationship between circadian rhythms and sleep in fish illustrates the intricate balance between internal biological processes and external environmental factors. This interplay ensures that fish rest at times that optimize survival, energy conservation, and physiological repair. It also highlights how sleep is not simply a passive process, but a regulated, adaptive behavior shaped by millions of years of evolution. Overall, the circadian regulation of fish sleep underscores the importance of timing in animal biology. By aligning rest with predictable environmental cycles, fish maximize their chances of avoiding predators, finding food, and reproducing successfully. Continued research into fish circadian rhythms not only enriches our understanding of aquatic life, but also provides comparative insights into the evolution of biological clocks and sleep mechanisms across species. The diversity of fish species is staggering, with over 34,000 known species ranging from tiny minnows to massive sharks. And this diversity extends to their sleep behaviors and patterns. Fish have evolved a wide array of sleep adaptations suited to their particular lifestyles, habitats, and evolutionary histories. Exploring the differences in sleep among various fish species reveals the incredible versatility of sleep as a biological process and highlights how environmental pressures shape rest strategies. Some fish, such as zebrafish and goldfish, have become popular model organisms for sleep research because they exhibit clear rest-activity cycles and behaviors that resemble sleep. These species typically show periods of inactivity during which they reduce movement, adopt specific resting postures, and display decreased responsiveness to external stimuli. Zebrafish, in particular, have been extensively studied because their genetic makeup is well understood and they are easy to keep in laboratory conditions. They follow a diurnal pattern, resting primarily at night, and their sleep-like states are regulated by circadian rhythms and melatonin, similar to many other vertebrates. In contrast, some nocturnal species, like certain catfish and swamp eels, are active at night and rest during the day. These fish adjust their sleep schedules to avoid competition and predation, demonstrating how sleep timing is an adaptive trait. Nocturnal fish often seek shelter in dark crevices or buried in the substrate during their daytime rest, showing behavioral adaptations that help them remain safe while sleeping. Pelagic fish, which inhabit the open ocean, often have different sleep strategies compared to reef or freshwater fish. For example, some species of sharks and tunas need to keep swimming constantly to breathe or maintain buoyancy, which complicates traditional notions of sleep. These fish may enter a state of active rest, where certain parts of their brain or body rest, while others remain alert to maintain movement. This form of sleep, somewhat analogous to unihemispheric sleep seen in dolphins and some birds, allows them to conserve energy and rest without stopping essential functions. Certain fish, such as parrotfish, exhibit fascinating sleep behaviors, including the creation of mucus cocoons around themselves at night. These cocoons serve as a protective barrier against parasites and predators by masking their scent and providing a physical shield. This behavior highlights the complex interaction between sleep and survival strategies in fish. Deep-sea fish, living in near total darkness and under immense pressure, also have unique sleep adaptations. Because of the extreme environment, these fish may not follow typical day-night rest cycles. Some may have very slow metabolisms and enter prolonged periods of reduced activity that function like sleep. Others might have fragmented sleep to maintain vigilance in a habitat where food is scarce and predation risk varies. Freshwater fish living in rivers and lakes experience highly variable environments, including fluctuations in temperature, oxygen, and light. These changes affect their sleep patterns, sometimes causing more flexible or opportunistic rest behaviors. For example, during periods of low oxygen or extreme temperatures, fish might reduce activity drastically to conserve energy, resembling hibernation-like states. Schooling fish display another dimension of sleep adaptation. Some species synchronize their rest periods to maintain group cohesion and reduce individual vulnerability. Sleeping in groups may provide collective vigilance, allowing fish to rest more deeply while others remain alert. This social aspect of fish sleep underscores the role of communication and cooperation in survival. Evolutionary history also plays a role in shaping sleep behaviors. Primitive fish, such as lampreys and hagfish, show different rest patterns compared to more derived teleost fish. Studying these ancient lineages helps researchers understand how sleep might have evolved in vertebrates and what fundamental features are conserved or altered. The vast variation in sleep among fish species demonstrates that sleep is not a fixed state, but a flexible behavior adapted to specific ecological niches. These adaptations may involve differences in sleep duration, intensity, timing, and associated behaviors. Understanding this diversity is essential not only for biological research, but also for conservation efforts, as it informs how fish respond to environmental changes and human impacts. In summary, fish sleep varies tremendously across species, shaped by habitat, lifestyle, evolutionary background, and ecological pressures. From zebrafish in laboratory tanks to deep-sea dwellers in the abyss, fish have evolved a multitude of ways to rest that reflect the complexity of life beneath the water's surface. This diversity highlights the adaptability of sleep and its fundamental importance across the animal kingdom. The role of sleep in fish extends far beyond mere rest. It plays a vital part in numerous physiological and cognitive functions essential for survival and health. While much of the research on sleep's functions has traditionally focused on mammals and birds, growing evidence shows that fish also benefit from sleep in critical ways that affect their brain function, metabolism, growth, and immune system. Understanding these functions sheds light on the universal importance of sleep across animal species, including fish. One of the primary functions of sleep in fish, as in other animals, is the restoration and maintenance of brain function. During periods of rest, fish brains undergo processes that help consolidate memories and facilitate learning. Studies in zebrafish, a common model organism for sleep research, demonstrate that sleep deprivation impairs their ability to form new memories and recall learned behaviors. This suggests that sleep plays a critical role in cognitive processing, allowing fish to better adapt to their environment, recognize predators or prey, and navigate complex habitats. Sleep also contributes to neural plasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. This plasticity is vital for adapting to changing environments, recovering from injury, and maintaining overall brain health. In fish, neural plasticity during sleep may support activities like finding new food sources, avoiding threats, and engaging in social behaviors. The exact molecular and cellular mechanisms underlying these processes are still under investigation, but early research indicates that sleep facilitates the clearance of metabolic waste products from the brain, similar to what occurs in mammals. Metabolic regulation is another crucial function of sleep in fish. Sleep allows the body to conserve energy and regulate metabolic processes efficiently. During rest, metabolic rate decreases, reducing energy expenditure and allowing resources to be allocated toward repair and growth. This is particularly important for fish living in environments where food availability fluctuates, or during periods of stress such as migration or spawning. Adequate sleep helps maintain energy balance and supports vital functions like digestion and tissue repair. Sleep is also closely linked to the immune system. Research has shown that fish deprived of sleep exhibit weakened immune responses, making them more susceptible to infections and diseases. Sleep supports the production and regulation of immune cells and signaling molecules that defend against pathogens. In aquaculture, ensuring proper sleep for fish is increasingly recognized as important for disease prevention and overall health management. Growth and development are significantly influenced by sleep as well. In juvenile fish, sufficient rest is necessary for normal growth rates and development of organs and systems. Hormones involved in growth, such as growth hormone and insulin-like growth factors, fluctuate with sleep cycles. Disruptions to sleep in young fish can result in stunted growth and developmental abnormalities, which impact survival and fitness in natural populations. Moreover, sleep plays a role in maintaining sensory function and motor coordination in fish. Adequate rest ensures that sensory organs like eyes, lateral lines, and olfactory systems function optimally, which is crucial for detecting environmental cues, locating food, and avoiding predators. Motor coordination and muscle function also benefit from restorative processes during sleep, supporting efficient swimming and escape responses. From an evolutionary perspective, the functions of sleep in fish highlight its fundamental importance across vertebrates. The conservation of sleep's restorative, cognitive, and metabolic roles suggests that these functions arose early in vertebrate evolution and have been maintained due to their adaptive value. Studying these functions in fish provides valuable insights into how sleep contributes to survival in diverse and challenging aquatic environments. In conclusion, sleep serves multiple essential functions in fish, ranging from brain maintenance and memory consolidation to energy conservation, immune support, growth, and sensory motor performance. These roles emphasize that sleep is a vital biological process, integral to the health and success of fish in their aquatic worlds. Ongoing research continues to uncover the intricate ways in which sleep supports life beneath the water's surface, reinforcing the universal importance of sleep across species. The fascinating study of fish sleep is not just a curiosity for scientists and nature lovers. It also holds significant implications for conservation, environmental management, and our understanding of aquatic ecosystems as a whole. As human activities increasingly impact the world's waters through pollution, habitat destruction, climate change, and artificial lighting, understanding how these changes affect fish sleep and rest behaviors becomes crucial. The health and survival of fish populations, and by extension, the balance of entire aquatic ecosystems, depend in part on their ability to maintain natural sleep patterns. One of the most pressing concerns in aquatic conservation is the impact of light pollution on fish sleep. Artificial lighting from coastal developments, ships, and underwater infrastructure disrupts natural light-dark cycles that regulate circadian rhythms in fish. This disruption can lead to altered sleep timing, reduced sleep duration, and fragmented rest periods. Fish exposed to excessive or irregular lighting may experience stress, impaired growth, weakened immune systems, and diminished reproductive success. These effects can cascade through populations, reducing resilience and increasing vulnerability to disease and predation. Pollution also poses a significant threat to fish sleep and overall health. Chemical pollutants, heavy metals, and microplastics in water bodies can interfere with neurological and endocrine systems that regulate sleep. Toxic substances may disrupt melatonin production or damage brain areas involved in sleep regulation, leading to abnormal rest patterns. Furthermore, pollution-induced stress triggers physiological responses that reduce the quality and quantity of sleep, further compromising fish well-being. Climate change introduces additional challenges by altering water temperature, oxygen levels, and seasonal patterns that fish rely on for synchronizing their sleep and activity cycles. Rising temperatures can increase metabolic rates, forcing fish to expend more energy and potentially reducing the time available for rest. Changes in oxygen availability, especially in warmer, stratified waters, can create hypoxic zones where fish must adjust their behavior to survive, sometimes sacrificing sleep to remain alert or migrate. Seasonal shifts in temperature and photoperiod can also disrupt reproductive cycles and associated rest behaviors, with long-term impacts on population dynamics. Habitat destruction, including coral reef degradation, wetland draining, and river damming, affects the availability of safe resting places for fish. Many species depend on specific microhabitats, such as crevices, seagrass beds, or submerged roots, to rest securely. Loss of these habitats forces fish into more exposed areas where they are vulnerable to predators during sleep. The resulting stress and increased predation risk can reduce survival rates and alter community structures. Understanding fish sleep also informs sustainable fisheries and aquaculture practices. Fish raised in captivity often face unnatural conditions that can disrupt sleep, such as constant lighting, overcrowding, and handling stress. These factors negatively affect growth, immunity, and behavior, ultimately impacting fish welfare and productivity. By incorporating knowledge of natural sleep cycles into aquaculture design, such as simulating natural light-dark periods and providing suitable resting habitats, producers can improve fish health and yield, while reducing the need for antibiotics and other interventions. Research into fish sleep also offers potential insights for environmental monitoring and conservation strategies. Changes in fish sleep patterns may serve as sensitive indicators of ecosystem health and pollution levels. For example, observing alterations in rest behaviors could help detect sublethal effects of contaminants or stressors before more obvious signs of population decline occur. Integrating sleep studies with other ecological assessments enhances our ability to protect aquatic biodiversity. Furthermore, public education about fish sleep and its importance can foster greater appreciation and stewardship for aquatic environments. Highlighting the similarities between fish and other animals in needing rest underscores the interconnectedness of life and the value of preserving natural habitats. This awareness can motivate conservation efforts and support policies aimed at reducing light pollution, limiting chemical runoff, and protecting critical habitats. In summary, fish sleep is not just a biological phenomenon, but a vital aspect of aquatic ecosystem health and sustainability. Protecting the natural rhythms and rest behaviors of fish helps maintain biodiversity, supports fisheries, and safeguards the intricate balance of life underwater. As environmental pressures continue to mount, incorporating the understanding of fish sleep into conservation and management practices is essential for ensuring the vitality of our planet's waters and the creatures that inhabit them.